Welcome to For Your Amusement, a theme park podcast that aims to exhaustively evaluate the world's most popular theme park attractions to determine if they are world class. I'm Brian Bergara.
I'm Byron Marin.
And for this episode's featured attraction, we accidentally elbow each other in the ribcage to discuss WEB SLINGERS, a Spider-Man adventure in Disney California Adventure in Anaheim, California. And joining us in the carpal tunnel is video creator and 2024's Scare Actor of the Year at Universal Studios Hollywood, Grant Horn, on YouTube and Instagram as just Grant Horn. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And as always, please like and subscribe to keep us alive if you're watching the video version over on youtube.com/@FYApod. Or if you're listening to the audio version, subscribe and rate the podcast 5 stars. And consider supporting us on our fourth wall, which is a different version of Patreon. You can join our fourth wall and become a park hopper, or FYA hole, as Byron calls it, by heading to FYApod.com. Not only will it help us keep this madness going, but you'll also get up to 3 monthly bonus shows in addition to the free main show you're tuning into now. And that's also where our merch is. Alas, we have finally come to the day where we must cover this ride, and how I worded that is exactly how I wanted to word it. We must cover this ride. This feels like a chore. And I hate to be so negative up top, but...
Yeah, you give it a little bit of time. We don't, you know... For many of the attractions we've covered on this show, there's been a sense of appreciation that we find for even a lot of attractions that are overlooked. Although I don't know if this is actually an overlooked attraction, as it's fairly new.
No, it's fairly looked at, unfortunately.
So I don't know. I'm doing what I can here. I'm reaching. But Grant, this is funny enough. This is not the first time we've all met in person. I believe we met you after you're done with your shift at Hollywood Horror Nights.
Yeah.
And like coincidentally, I didn't notice it until I saw the photo of you on your Instagram in it's not like Leatherface, but one of those Texas Chainsaw Massacre scare actor guys.
Yeah.
I was at the front of the maze. So we actually did the maze, and I believe you probably did scare us, only to find out like later on that when you saw us in person. Little did I know that was you in that costume.
Yeah, I remember you guys were there, and I was like, if I see you come through, I'm gonna like for sure try to like time it out. And we have these little cameras that we can look through, and I was like, dude, I love this pod. I've seen him go through. I was like, I have to try to get him. And then I like ran off set. Sure. I don't think I did. I think you just stared at me.
A lot of times I scream inside. And
yeah, I'm kind of like that too. Like I'll get scared, but I'm like, I can't let them know I'm scared.
Because then they'll keep coming after you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I definitely jump when I get scared, as most people know. But I don't get scared in mazes for the most part, because I just love mazes and the storytelling. But I will say, I'm going to apologize to Grant formally right now, because this was a ride he picked, and I immediately shit on it in the beginning, at the start of this podcast. But Grant, why?
Okay, so I think the thing with this ride, it has a very special place in my heart personally. I think it's often... I'm not gonna lie, I'm just kidding. I also
I thought you were about to tell some heartfelt story about like, this was the last ride I rode with my grandmother, and I was about to be like, well, I guess I'll go fuck myself.
No, I wouldn't put her through this. No, I sent a couple rides in, and this one, I honestly hate this ride with a passion. I'm a big fan of the pod. I think the lowest score right now is 3 out of 10. And I have very, very confident that I could get this to a 0.
I saw that he had his own notes coming in, and I was like, I started to get worried, because I was like, oh boy, he's going to try and break the rubric by getting this to world class. And now I'm happy to hear.
This is like a potential like reverse Mike from the party.
Yes, reverse Mike from the party.
A reverse super muscle job.
Yeah. This is also, you are the first guest. I don't know when this podcast is going to come out chronologically for the audience, but you're among one of the first guests to have some of the new tests that we are having in the world class tests. We added some tests to the rubric. We took 1 or 2 out and combined 2 tests. So like, you're going to see a pretty new rubric. So sorry that you prepared some notes to try and get it to that 0 in the old rubric, but maybe you'll still be able to do it.
I'm pretty excited.
In the spirit of Walt, it's the rubric can never be complete.
Yes,
potentially.
Exactly. That's exactly he meant that. He was like, one day.
It's a great way for us to spin the idea of us having a flawed rubric.
It's not. We just needed to spice it up, and as we've gone to we've been doing this podcast for now about a year and a half.
Yeah,
and there's always been a couple tests that every time I read them, I'm like, we got to get that one out of here.
No, it took a bit of a leap of faith with this rubric that's been the same since episode 1. So honestly, I'm a little surprised it's gone as well as it has for this long.
If you guys watch this episode, we're pretty fluid over here. You hate this rubric, you're like, put it back to the original one. We'll change it back. And we could always redo this right again in court. World-class kangaroo court, that is.
Yeah. But when it comes to a Bugs Land, I don't think you could do the Control-Z method.
No, you can.
Like you could potentially do with this rubric, but hopefully you enjoy it.
Or Command-Z if you're on Mac. Either way, let's move on to some first impressions of this ride, starting with Grant. What was your first impression of this ride?
So my first impression, I kind of went in with low expectations just because I had already seen some videos online. I knew it was very similar to a ride at Legoland.
Yeah, it was.
So I'm just kind of like, all right, like this is seemingly what Disney is on right now, not really trying to push the envelope. And I was still somehow disappointed.
Would that have been like the Ninjago ride?
Yeah.
Or okay,
it's basically the same thing. I haven't been on that one, but it kind of translates from video really similar, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I almost got on that because I went to Legoland recently with my nephew, and the line was too long, and he was like, that's not worth it. And I was like, fine with me. He did love Technicoaster, though.
That was a childhood favorite of mine. I rode it, I believe, it was like either 24 or 27 times in a day as a kid.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I feel bad for your parents.
No, my dad was with me the whole time. They just kept lapping us. We played hooky together.
I see.
He took me down.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you didn't understand. Okay.
Yeah.
But yes, so you were not pleased with what you saw.
No, I actually...
Not even the first time kind of like excitement of seeing a new ride where you...
Not at all, because I feel like I've been let down recently by like a lot of the new attractions. So it's kind of like, all right, let me go in with low expectations and like try to manage it so I can still be excited. And then all I left with was like tired forearms and just like wasted an hour of my life.
Yeah. Byron, what was your first impression of this?
Well, I believe the first time I rode this was with you.
It was.
I believe this was right after, it wasn't right. I think the parks had opened again after the pandemic in April of 2021. I don't believe we went until July.
Mm-hmm.
We did the whole thing. We made like a whole weekend out of it because there weren't passes anymore at the time. So we got like the multi-day tickets.
Yes, this was this is our first visit post-pandemic.
So we did it big. Like we wanted to make up for lost time. We stayed on property.
That was great.
I believe Amanda Pham was with us.
Yes.
I believe my brother was with us.
My wife was with us. Amanda's
Laura.
now wife as well.
But yeah, just terrific weekend. And we had a lot of hype because we didn't kind of you and me both, we didn't really look into too many spoilers, I feel like.
I don't like reading much about a ride before I go on. Like, I'll follow the construction. In fact, I'm running into this with Epic Universe right now, where I will follow construction pretty closely until it gets close to completion, because then I don't want to see the final details. It's fun as a theme park fan to imagine what things are going to look like by description and stuff. But then seeing it actually finished in pictures before seeing it in person, I always feel like it never ends well.
I'm right there with you. Like no disrespect to Alicia Stella and Bio Reconstruct. Their videos are too good. It got to a point where I'm like, all right, I gotta spend the next 6 months or so just not looking at the final touches.
Though. I watched her latest Epic Universe update recently, like a week ago, and I was like, I felt bad. It felt like I was doing something wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. So I'm trying to stay off. It's always tempting because the algorithm is, it knows. It's like, come on, give it.
But anyways, I knew nothing about this ride as well.
No, all I knew was the spatial limitations they had. So I didn't know what the ride system was going to be. I just figured, I guess my expectations weren't crazy high just because I knew they were essentially working with a pre-existing show building.
Yeah.
That was for It's Tough to Be a Bug.
Yes.
I mean, you know, it was this whole area is taking over a bug. So what could they possibly do? And knowing that the main Avengers ride was going to be a phase 2 operation where they'd kind of dig deeper into that backstage area. Yeah, I managed my expectations. I was still pretty excited because it was we were back at the Disney parks after over a year hiatus.
Yeah.
So just to get something new was really cool. And it's so weird that how unmemorable the actual first experience was. Like I think about it, I'm like, yeah, we did the boarding group. This was the boarding group thing at the time because it was a new. Yeah. So we probably waited about a half an hour or so after we were called.
Yeah.
The entire queue is basically outdoors. Once again, spatial limitations. The queue had to all be outdoors to fit this thing. And I don't like. I just remember like it looked nice, and it was kind of like. You ever see a movie where you're like, man, that was a lot of fun. That was a good movie. Then you like wake up the next day and you're like, wait a minute, that movie sucked. What was I thinking?
I just had that recently.
But hey, you know what doesn't suck? These delicious and nutritious pre-made meals by Factor that are delivered right to my doorstep. Hey, I wouldn't be surprised if Peter Parker himself put a couple of these bad boys down before swinging through the city. Say, are you also ready to optimize your nutrition this year? Because Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. They're dietitian approved and ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes. So you can fuel right and feel great no matter what life throws at you. Factor arrives fresh and fully prepared, perfect for any active, busy lifestyle. There are 40 options across 8 dietary preferences on the menu each week. It's easy to pick meals tailored to your goals. Choose from preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. I personally love going with Protein Plus, just the way my exercise routine's going so far. I need that extra protein in my diet. So once again, Factor really coming in clutch with that. Factor can also help you feel your best all day long with wholesome smoothies, breakfast, grab-and-go snacks, and more add-ons. Reach your goals this year with ingredients you can trust and convenience that can't be beat. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use code FACTORPODCAST to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code FACTORPODCAST at factormeals.com/factorpodcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box.
I mean, I'll say this, and this is damning for this ride. This ride was set up in every single way for me to like it. Like Byron had said, it was my first trip to Disneyland since the pandemic. I was starved. I was like a person traversing the desert, and someone was about to give me a Dixie cup of water, and it was going to be the most delicious water of all time. I was poised to love this ride. And even with that and the excitement, I get so excited for a brand new ride experience or a theme park experience, let alone a Disney theme park experience. So I was hyped going into this, but I had heard whispers that it wasn't that great. So I just remember standing in the queue, doing that thing where I was like really trying my best to give it a fair shot and like it. I remember in the queue pointing out small details like when we were in the outside, like, oh, look, they have like they have webs and stuff and all that. Like, it's pretty cool.
Like brick walls.
Oh, look, they have like equipment and everything and paraphernalia.
It reminds me of being back at in college.
Yeah, I remember walking into the pre-show room. I was like, oh, pre-show room. I didn't know there was a pre-show. Cool. And then and I saw Tommy. I was like, good to see Tom. And I was like, okay, maybe this ride isn't as bad as people, are saying it is. I saw the ride vehicle. That's always one of the most exciting things when you get on a new ride is what does the ride vehicle look like? And as soon as you get that first glance at it, you get to imagine what could this ride vehicle possibly do. And I remember seeing these ride vehicles and I thought like, oh, wait, is this ride a little bit more involved than I thought? Because like seeing the lap bar and everything.
Yeah,
and
they look sharp too.
And I was like, okay, maybe this ride kind of, rips a little bit. And then all that went immediately out the window. About 2 minutes into the ride, when it dawned on me that that's all the ride was going to be, I just remember this wave of profound sadness washing over because I was like, is this what it's going to be? Because I knew that it was not the e-ticket for the land. I knew the e-ticket was coming, which, by the way, who knows when that's coming? I know they're just starting construction now. Typically, when you say things are coming in phases, you announce when the next phase is coming. Marvel doesn't say like phase 2 when we feel like it. It's like phase 2, 2020 something or whatever, So we'll see. We'll see if but I hear the new Avengers e-ticket might also be a very screen heavy attraction. So
classic.
Yeah, I mean this was a pretty big misfire on all accounts. The land was not great, if I'm being nice. And the ride.
Really? I like the land.
No way, bro.
It's better. Okay, wait. It's better than Galaxy's Edge.
That's an insane take.
Wait, okay.
You're gonna have
this is why we have guests on this show. I would love to hear this.
I would
insane take.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
Yeah, I've spent hours in Avengers Campus, but I'll walk through Galaxy's Edge. I don't hang out there.
Did you fall and concuss yourself, and therefore you were there for several hours until the EMTs arrived?
It might be because of Pimm's.
Okay, so yeah, you were there drinking at the Pimm's bar.
Yeah. No, because they have my go-to drink there. But
which one is it? Is it the one with all the boba inside?
I get a Juice Force.
Oh, I haven't tried that. Maybe I
Yeah.
have to try that.
It's a 9.5.
You know what?
There it is.
To be fair, if you are into grabbing a couple cocktails at one of these immersive lands,
It's probably the best.
Pims compared to Oga's. I mean,
way
think
better.
about it. You're outdoors. You can relax if it's good weather. Here's the thing with Oga's.
It's hard to get into.
And then when you finally get in there, it's like, okay, you got your reservation, and everything. Okay, we're gonna jam you into this table. However, it has 5 other people, and okay, you have 45 minutes. Go.
Yeah, that's true. It's always like an unintentional meet and greet with a random family. And, I want to sit there and talk nerdy ride stuff. And then meanwhile, this family from wherever in the country, I feel bad. They're just subjected. It's like they're subjected to my impromptu filibuster, which I guess you guys feel like that too. But no, we're going to have to put a pin in that because I think if we get too much into why you think Galaxy's Edge is better than Avengers Campus, which just looks
the opposite is worse,
Yeah.
right? You think it's worse than...
Yeah, I think Avengers Campus is better than Galaxy's Edge.
That's what he's saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
For me, the main thing is the ambience of it. Like you walk into Avengers Campus and you hear Marvel music, so you feel like you're transported into the movie. Versus Galaxy's Edge, you feel like you're in the world. And I want to be in the movie. That's why I think the Harry Potter lands are better because you hear the music, it feels nostalgic. It feels more immersive. I don't want to feel like I'm in a random.
How is hearing the music making it more immersive? That's basically just bring a Bluetooth speaker with you or something.
I did that in Disney World when I rode Space Mountain for the first time. I hate their Space Mountain, but I love the one here. So we took. I'll send you the photo. We took our phones and played the OG Space Mountain music while we rode the roller coaster. It made it so much better.
No, yeah, I'm trying Space Mountain with different songs too at Disneyland. Highly recommend that as well with your AirPods. But Star Wars Land has moving audio. It feels like craft or moving above you. There's a sound experience that all right, whatever. We're gonna move past that. I didn't like this ride. That's that. Byron, let's move on to some history.
Oh, and one more point, just because it reminded me when you brought up your first impression. I feel rather naive because a lot of my anticipation for this attraction we're covering today, Web Slingers, kind of stemmed from knowing that Disney had a tall mountain to climb by doing a Spider-Man ride. So I really felt look, what Universal did over at Islands of Adventure with their Spider-Man ride was so good that Disney can't fuck this up. They have to know they have a really high bar set, and they have to somehow get in the ballpark. That clearly didn't matter as much.
You think that they would?
So
recognize
that was the piece of hope I was holding on to. It's hey, they got to pull something. They got to pull a rabbit out of the hat with this one. But alas, here we are. We'll go back to February 8th of 2001. Disney's California Adventure Park opens officially, and with that, an area entitled the Golden State. Contrary to the majority of the park upon opening, this large central area featured a variety of charming attractions as well as decent theming. 2 of these attractions have been previously covered on this podcast, but by moving into slightly more obscure territory, we'll be able to grow an appreciation for a couple more Golden State gems. One being Bountiful Valley Farm, a walkthrough area that paid tribute to California's agriculture, and the second being It's Tough to Be a Bug, a clone of the 3D animated film and effects show, which originally debuted with the rest of Disney's Animal Kingdom Park back in April of 1998, which, funny enough, was actually 7 months prior to the release of the film it was based on, Pixar's A Bug's Life. But let's return to 2001. The second iteration of It's Tough to Be a Bug, when opening with Disney's California Adventure, was, as mentioned, one of the few exceptions to what was otherwise a very unexceptional theme park. Apart from the many criticisms involving the park's tacky nature and evident lack of funding or identity, parents were also hard-pressed to find many attractions that were suitable for their little ones. A solution for this was revealed on February 8th of 2002, when Disneyland Resort president at the time, Cynthia Harris, announced that the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror would be dropping in on Disney's California Adventure Park. But jokes aside, this was supplemented with the announcement for what was to become Flick's Fun Fair, a new themed area featuring 4 kiddie rides and a splash pad. This would open adjacent to the pre-existing It's Tough to Be a Bug as well as Bountiful Valley Farm on October 7th of 2002. Altogether, they would form a Bug's Land.
Hello, I'm Michael Eisner, head of Walt Disney, and I'm here at Disney's California Adventure in Anaheim for the opening of A Bug's Land based on the miniature world of the Disney Pixar film A Bug's Life.
Although many would consider the addition of a Bugs Land to be a band-aid fix for what was, for the most part, a sinking ship of a park, the cute and clever theming, in addition to filling a much-needed void for kiddie rides, served as a bug-sized step in the right direction.
Very funny land, by the way. It's
A Bugs Land?
Heimlich's Choo Choo Train. Hilarious
man.
title. Heimlich also a funny guy, so I respect that.
A delightfully trollish kiddie ride that I definitely rode it many times in my adult years, because a Bugs Land was one of my favorites to go to at night because it was essentially empty in the last operating hours at California Adventure.
Yeah.
So you just have cast members just like bored with no one back there, and like they would just, you could lap it if you want, you never did, but there's like, what are you doing here? It's like, hey, that's exactly why I'm here, for that reaction.
It's crazy.
I do have a photo with our friend Tim on Heimlich's by ourselves at like 9 p.m.
Also, RIP to It's Tough to Be a Bug, soon to be extinct all around. Salute to it. It's tough to be a bug. Always one of the great warriors out on the battlefield. If the battlefield is, of course, traumatizing your children. And it's one of our greatest, and I salute you.
Now back to 2004, with Tower of Terror's eventual opening, California Adventure had itself a new lease on life, and come October of 2007, any lingering fears regarding the park's survival were put to bed with Bob Iger's announced $1.1 billion investment initiative. The following years would bring a variety of enhancements to the park and to its increasing number of satisfied guests. But these enhancements would not be possible without some casualties along the way, and when it came to a Bugs Land, Bountiful Valley Farm was the first to go, closing in September of 2010 in order to concede space for what was to become a small chunk of Cars Land, more specifically for said land's supplementary attraction that we will one day cover on this podcast. But let's get back to a Bugs Land. With the exception of Bountiful Valley Farm, Flick and his friends had survived DCA's crossover into the 2010s, which became a prosperous time for the Walt Disney Company. While their parks were being enhanced, their theatrical film division was also thriving, especially with the help of their newly acquired Marvel Studios franchise. The out-of-control success of Marvel would inevitably find its way into the Disney parks. Even with Universal's stranglehold on certain Marvel characters east of the Mississippi, the door was left open for California, Disney California Adventure to be exact. In May of 2017,
Ladies and gentlemen of Terra, the Taiwan collection is officially open.
Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout opens, replacing the beloved Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. And if you want more history on those attractions, lucky you, because we've got a couple episodes on those attractions already. But anyways, considering that Tower of Terror was tucked in the back corner of Hollywoodland, the Guardians of the Galaxy reskin appeared to be thematically inconsistent, especially for those who didn't see the writing on the wall. Now for some, this spelled the end for Hollywoodland, which would obviously have to adapt its theme entirely to work with the out-of-place e-ticket attraction, right? Not exactly. You see, the back right corner of Hollywoodland was connected to none other than the back of Flick's Fun Fair, which ultimately led guests all the way to the front of Bugs Land. Not exactly a Cars Land's worth of real estate, but I suppose in the eyes of Disney executives, it was enough to work with. That being said, It's Tough to Be a Bug closed permanently on March 19th of 2018, and less than 6 months after that, the remainder of A Bugs Land. For the most part, the area once occupied by Flick's Fun Fair would get demolished to make way for what was to become the main hub for Avengers Campus, and as for the large building that housed It's Tough to Be a Bug, it would be gutted out and repurposed to hold the attraction we are covering today. And although the 2020 pandemic would greatly delay the opening timeline for this exciting new land and its brand new attraction, Web Slingers, a Spider-Man adventure, it finally opened with the rest of Avengers Campus on June 4th of 2021.
Activating Avengers Campus in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And hey, if you miss It's Tough to Be a Bug and wish this attraction was never replaced, I've got great news for you. You can still check the original show out over at Disney's Animal Kingdom for about 2 more weeks, then she's gone.
Yeah. There's a couple things that popped into my mind hearing that history. First off, I think this ride would be vastly improved in terms of guest satisfaction if they just took adventure out of the title.
Yeah.
What?
Because then it would just be Web Slingers or Spider-Man.
A Spider-Man?
That's because they could be like, oh, there was a Spider-Man. Technically, adventure is setting them up for failure.
Here's the deal, though. Like, adventure is never used in any Disney title for a ride.
Indiana Jones Adventure.
What?
Indiana Jones Adventure.
Oh, that's the only one. And Tiana's Bayou Adventure doesn't count.
But yeah,
Ellen's.
Ellen's Energy Event. Yeah,
Yeah, the Ellen's.
We've caught on to the joke.
I think
Remy's Ratatouille.
it made me realize that this plot of Land in California Adventure has been doomed for a long time. Like it's been a small plot of land that has occupied a series of half measures. First, it was like the farm mixed with Bugs Land, and they tried to make a Bugs Land, and then they realized that didn't work. So then they tried to put this little, like, I guess, half-assed Marvel Land in there, which apparently is better than Galaxy's Edge, but we're not going to get into that. They just don't have enough space. Like, I remember, stay with me here. I remember in 5th grade, I had to do a state report. And a state report, and I think I had Louisiana or something. And I had made the fatal decision to do block letters for the opening page of my of my state report. And anybody who's done block letters has had this happen where you make the blocks a little too big in the beginning, and as you get towards the end, you realize you're running out of real estate, so those blocks become super small by the end, and it just doesn't look right. And as opposed to just starting over with the correct block size, you just adjust as you go. That's kind of what this land feels like to me, where it was just like, we don't have enough space, but let's try it anyway. And then they just kind of piecemeal added things to this land, and that's what they all feel like to me. Like, the land feels like that, this attraction feels like that, and I fear that the Avengers e-ticket is also going to feel like that, as opposed to just really going for it and taking out Hollywood Land completely, taking out Bugs Land, and really giving it a footprint. They tried to kind of get cute. And it shows. And what's crazy is we still don't know what's going to happen to Hollywood Land. Like, we still don't know if that's going to be maybe the future side of Pandora. I don't think it's going to be here much longer, but nobody really knows what's going to happen. So, I don't know. It just feels like it was ill-fated to begin with.
I will add that as like avid theme park goers, we don't notice this as much as someone who like travels out here and is never like doesn't know anything about Avengers Campus. So when we think of Avengers Campus opening, it seems like we think like, oh, like Spider-Man was the new supposed to be like a new big thing, and yeah, there's going to be the phase 2 of Avengers Campus. Whereas I think a lot of people that travel, their intent was, look, we already have Guardians here. So that's the big e-ticket.
Yeah.
Because like I think it's hard for me to still keep associating Guardians
with the land,
with Avengers Campus, even though it's part of it, just because we've spent a bunch of years enjoying Guardians without Avengers Campus.
Well, it's also because it makes no sense in Avengers Campus. Even though it's the only sense it makes is that it has Marvel in front of it in the title. But for the most part, why is Tavon's collection tower in the middle of Avengers Campus? Nobody really knows. Like,
well, they double down on it because it's featured in the ride we're talking about today.
It just doesn't make it like if that was what their intent was, let's just make Guardians be the e-ticket. Why not design the land around Guardians? You could still have all the other superheroes come in to like a Guardians land, but instead they just made Avengers Campus and then have this giant tower from this outer space collector is in the middle of this Avengers Campus that reportedly is supposed to be based off of Pasadena, California.
Really?
Yeah.
I've actually heard that too.
So I don't understand why, like, if you're gonna try and wedge something in, at least make an effort to thematically like wedge it in. I don't really get it.
It's like the spirit of 2001 California Adventure logic, like
exactly
muscled its way in.
I just like I could get the argument that like, well, the e-ticket's Guardians. Well, why doesn't it fit the land then? Like, that's why you don't think of it as the land, because it doesn't fit really. It's just make it a Guardians land, and then
we'll theme it to an area.
You just did a movie
that already
where
exists
the Guardians
in
were
California.
like the centerpiece for Infinity War and Endgame in terms of how all the stories link together. Just continue that thematic link in the land. I don't know. I
feel like that makes too much sense. Like, it's too straightforward for Disney to be like, yeah, like, let's do that.
I mean, I would have loved a Guardians land.
Yeah.
I really feel like, I mean, this is, once again, maybe I'm just giving too much credit or just trying to find positives here in some way, where I feel like the limitations of the land might have made them feel like, hey, we have to do something that's a little more like realistic and cute, or
maybe
because we can't do this massive scale like space land in this little spot. But hey, a campus, okay, yeah.
I don't know, man.
I think it's like a creative versus like function thing.
Yeah.
Where it's just like they could do more, but what's going to be cheaper?
I feel like you could make a Guardians like the Ego planet from, Guardians 2. That wasn't too crazy looking. I don't know. We're getting into armchair here, but it just feels like they could have thought it out a little bit more. But, who am I to say? I'm sitting in a tiki room. So let's move on to some fun facts. The ride is about 4 minutes long with an unknown speed, an unknown cost, but the Avengers Campus expansion did cost roughly $500 million, according to the LA Times. And this ride sports a theoretical ride capacity of 640 riders per hour. But I did do that math on my own because it wasn't available online. And I just did that by using the formula of 3,600 seconds divided by the number of seconds between ride vehicles dispatched to give me the number of ride vehicles per hour, and then multiply that by the number of riders per vehicle, which came out to 640 riders with a 45-second dispatch in between.
That's low.
Yeah.
It's low. I mean, I did beautiful mind that, and my mind isn't that beautiful. So I don't know how.
You mathed it after. Otherwise, I would have thought that was just like that was just an incorrect statistic that was online, because I feel like Disney rarely ever opens new attractions now with that low of a capacity.
That explains why the line is actually kind of long often, because there's no way anyone's willingly like riding this thing.
Oh, that's a great reminder, by the way. Do you want to take a crack at what the average wait time is?
I've been checking all week. And so I've seen it at 40 often, but I got to account for like the morning and closing. So I'm going to say 32.
No, I'm going to go 45.
46, according to thrilldata.com.
Wow.
There's no such thing as off season anymore in the Disneyland Resort.
Yeah.
I figured that out. But that's crazy.
I would have thought it was lower than 46, but it turns out that's I guess it's often at an hour. So
also, I got the dispatch time by watching a bunch of different POVs and just counting how many seconds, because some vloggers will actually like film the entirety of them walking up, so you could count the seconds in between ride dispatches. It was about 45 seconds.
It's what, 8 people a ride vehicle? So you got 4 people on each side?
I believe so, yes.
That's such a theme park head thing to do. The amount of time you had to spend mathing out just to figure out the capacity of
this is the
ride.
first time I've had to show my work since high school. I
Pretty
basically
good.
just showed my work.
I like the breakdown, because I've never written down the formula, but that's kind of like how I've done it with like when I was like I'd watch Fantasyland attractions. So I was sitting in line, I get like a sample size of like 20 to get an average dispatch time, and then do that formula essentially. Just because I couldn't find times online, but that's I think that's a good way to do it.
Our minds are broken. Moving on with some fun facts, though. The attraction uses a brand new gesture detection technology that can identify 60 guest movements per second, which is what allows riders to shoot webs from their hands digitally. Here's a quote from Brent Strong, Executive Creative Director at Walt Disney Imagineering. Quote, "Every time you ride Web Slingers, we actually have an entire invisible interface that's on that vehicle with you, developed by all of these inventors at Web. It's an array of cameras that in real time are able to determine where your head is, where your shoulders are, where your elbows are, where your wrists are, and between that and the 3D glasses, we're able to create webs coming right out of your wrist every time you gesture." End quote. That's impressive. I will admit, that's pretty cool. Little creepy that they have cameras that are aimed all over my body. There's definitely this. I mean, with that in mind, this is probably bottom of the rankings of the rides where you could get the hanky-panky going, right? Like, they're going to see that gesture.
How similar
Just
is
webs
that?
shooting out.
It's the best ride ever.
I wonder
high
how
score.
similar that technology is to like Secret Life of Pets. Because they also track like your head.
Oh, that's right.
And your mouth. Like if you open your mouth, you stick like the dog.
That's all live motion.
Both of them claim that it was innovative, first of its kind technology, both Universal and Disney. So who's to say?
And Legoland sitting in the corner.
Exactly. Legoland just sitting there screaming up, "Hey, listen to me!" Also, according to Forbes, the ride, quote, is also combined with an artificial intelligence system which forecasts where the webs would land if they were fired in real life. I don't know how you would. I guess you're just measuring by projectiles, like how you would do like in the Olympics, because obviously no one shot a web out of their hand before. So that's cool that they took the time to do that. I don't think anyone would call them on that, but whatever. Also, here's some more from Brent Strong. Here he is talking about the scoring and how certain spider bots are worth more, in case any of you guys are curious about the mechanics of this game. Quote, players are awarded bonus points depending on what state the spider bots are in and when you stop them. When they go to start destroying the environment, like eating things, they start to glow red. When they're about to self-replicate, they start to glow blue. When they get into the collector's crazy alien goo, they become unstable and green. There's even a handful of gold bots that escape the lab with heat shielding on them. Those are worth a lot of points. Also from a Reddit thread on the Disneyland subreddit by user Cody is Lucky. Shout out to Cody is Lucky. He advises that the gold bots are the only ones worth aiming for, and eventually the green ones. You could aim for those too. And this is mainly because the red and the blue ones are destroyed by the environment and automatically added to your score. So aim for environmental triggers, things like, quote, levers, buttons, explosive barrels, turrets, and collector vaults. Anything that looks like it does a thing or is colored a color other than the background wall is worth hitting, as well as the gold bots and the green ones. And also those gold bots are typically around the edges of the room or even behind objects that you have to move, because you can move the environment with your webs as well. Just in case anyone was trying to get that elusive high score, so you could go to a bar and say, hey, guess what I am?
You know what's funny is
the high score on Web Slingers of Spider-Man.
Are you kidding me? That's right. Who do you think you are? I am.
when I wrote this for, research purposes this past weekend, I did notice after the first round, like, I didn't realize that there's a hierarchy of those, and it shows it after each round.
Yes.
Like how many of each thing you've hit. So I noticed that I accidentally, because I was just flinging my hands around, I hit a couple of the gold ones. I'm like, oh, wait, I should just aim for those because you get all the points. And then I did shittier every round after that because I couldn't find the goal.
Yeah, they're around the edges and behind shit. Also, one thing about this that I did not realize on several ride-throughs of this is a team score, which is, that's the only one that actually goes on the leaderboard for the day, for the week, for the month. And there's a max available points of 800,000 per vehicle without the bosses. And there's, I believe, there's 3 bosses. I think there's 4 rooms on this ride, but there's only 3 bosses. And that same user, Cody is Lucky, if you want to go through a walkthrough of how to defeat and game those bosses, you could go to that Reddit thread. It's a very thorough walkthrough, and I'm not going to bore you with the details of that for all you web slinger sickos out there. The web building is repurposed from a 1950s base for Stark Motors and its subsidiaries Accutech and Geffen-Meyer Chemicals, both of which are from the comics. The crane atop the building, this is a really cool one, was actually the crane used to move Heimlich's choo-choo train.
Whoa.
I thought that was pretty funny.
Like, that's not storybook. That's actually the crane that they use.
That's the crane. That's a fun little nod.
That's actually cool.
According to the internet, these are fun facts. Remember that. Apparently, parking spaces for Howard Stark, Peggy Carter, and Edwin Jarvis are outside the building. I haven't seen those with my own papers, but they're out there. In the pre-show room, and now we're going to kind of move into Easter egg territory here, because this is a Marvel attraction. There's going to be a lot of fun Easter eggs. I'll go through some of the ones I liked. There's so many more, though, if you want to really dig into it. In the pre-show room, the gear grabber on the side of the room is packed with Easter eggs. Here's some of them. From the Marvel Universe, we have a sticker of Captain America's shield, and within the machine, we have Funko Pops of Thor and Captain Marvel, as well as a Groot plushie. From the Disney Universe, we have some Easter eggs. We have the aliens from Toy Story, referencing the claw. From that, obviously that's their thing. That's there on the gear grabber, but that's fun. And also we have some Easter eggs from the theme park universe. We have the honorary bug glasses from the show It's Tough to Be a Bug, in which, as Byron mentioned, their real estate was taken over by Avengers Campus. We also have the famous Luxo lamp on Peter's desk in the pre-show area. That's the little lamp that takes the place of the eye in Pixar before Pixar films. And finally, for this pre-show room, there is a can of compressed air labeled in a snap, and it's visible with a hand resembling Thanos' gauntlet snapping its fingers on it, which is funny, but if you want to live in universe, would be extremely in bad taste to make a product that is kind of punning the disappearing of half the universe. To me, that would be kind of like if we made like a 9/11 pun item in a New York City pizza shop. Like it'd be very bad taste. I don't know. I thought that was really funny that was in there, so I had to mention it.
Hey, remember when you lost your loved ones for 5 years?
Yeah, remember when you were like hugging your mom and then she turned to dust? Use this to clean your laptop. Also in the queue are some lockers. One of which is for Grisel Ramirez, a tribute to the late Imagineer of the same name who tragically passed in 2019 in a car accident. So that's pretty cool. But that does it for my fun facts. There's a lot of stuff hidden in this ride. And those are probably the only fun things we're going to discuss about this ride as we move into armchair engineering, unless any of you guys have some fun facts to add to the pile there.
No.
I think you just about covered them.
It was way more than I expected.
Armchair engineering. What's one thing you would possibly do to make this attraction even better? That's how that test is worded. This comes from, we're going to go over to fyapod.com to have some of our FYA holes make some suggestions here first. This comes from Canada Don't. I would place the ride vehicles on an elevated track or lift so that you feel as though you're following the robots and Spidey on a wall crawling mission. So basically they wouldn't change the screens, but they would elevate the ride vehicles either by suspension. They actually included a video here, which we could play now, of one roller coaster that features this technology. You could see how it's kind of on the...
Oh, that makes sense.
If they had a track that was like where the vehicle was like on a track and it was suspended, it would give the ride a little more dimension as opposed to just being basically an omnimover. A really cool suggestion and seems somewhat doable, honestly. But alas, they did not. This also comes from Sherbert Alex. For web slingers, the arm tracking tech is awesome, so the biggest thing to make that ride better is more physical sets and sense of place. Have your actions interact with physical props, and the sets change through the rounds. And then lastly, we have something from Danger Mahoney. Let's introduce more robust Magic Band integrations with web slingers to create a truly personal Spider-Man experience. Imagine boarding Spider-Man web slingers, and instead of a generic greeting, Spidey turns to you and says, "Caitlin and Christopher, just the duo I need for our Young Avengers initiative. Mom and Dad, your kids are 4 and 6. Maybe let them win this round," or something like that. With Magic Band and AI-driven personalization, Web Slingers becomes more immersive, where Spider-Man actually knows who you are. That's notable because they do sell those power-up bands, I believe. I don't know if that's the official term for them, but that do have some effect on the ride, though I saw from Reddit 75% of the time, anecdotally, they do not work. But it would be cool if they could add some personalization, kind of like an E.T. factor to the ride, where E.T. says your name. Do you guys have any suggestions on how you would make this ride better?
Mine's kind of similar to one of them, but I thought it'd be cool if the sets around you changed more. I thought like someone mentioned that being able to affect the set. Like if you were to web sling and they said, "Yo, everyone target this bar," and then a physical bar drops in front of the ride vehicle, that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
And then if the sets, like you leave the collection, for example, and then you're back in like the warehouse, which kind of makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's also a little bit of a bad, like if you were actually in the collection, or if in the background you could shoot like an Easter egg, you could shoot one of the elevators from Guardians of the Galaxy and you see it drop. Like be a little bit of a like tie into the land a little bit more.
As opposed to just like, move this crate.
Yeah.
You might find something behind it. You did it.
I love the idea of it because I don't think it would take up too much real estate anyways if it just was still a slow attraction that instead of the screens, it was just motion detected to hit practical objects. And then they do things.
I mean, they do that in Buzz Lightyear.
They do it in Buzz Lightyear. I don't know if the things move as much. I think the best example I can think of for a ride system that would work with this, especially since the capacity is
in Buzz,
already...
you hit like a crate and on the target on the crate, and the crate opens, and then it reveals a bigger target. So like, I do like the practical aspect.
Yeah. So there's stuff like that. I think the best example, you could either go Omnimover that way, or you could, since the capacity isn't crazy on this to begin with, I think one of the best examples would be Tokyo Disneyland's Monsters Inc. Ride and Go Seek. That's a very
wasn't
similar.
Able to get on it. It was closed when I was there.
It's a very similar thing where it's, kind of like Buzz, but there's practical things happening that you could definitely do with these webs here.
Yeah, no, I think these are all really good suggestions. I really like the suspension one though, because if it's something to make this feel a little bit more substantial.
Oh, and here's another couple like quick ones. I don't think this had to be a ride, especially if you already have Guardians and then you have an upcoming big Avengers e-ticket. This could have been either some like neat comprehensive walkthrough. I know they like refused to do it because, oh my gosh, Spider-Man, we have to make it a ride. Either that, or especially like with Hyperion Theater out of commission and stuff for a while, just to get another show in there. I know Spider-Man doesn't have a great track record with live shows, if Broadway's any indication.
Yeah.
But I think maybe either a show, which is like that theater was designed to do that, like a special effects driven show, or some neat comprehensive walkthrough where you get to like build your spider.
I guess I'd prefer that over a half-assed ride.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they could put nothing there and it'd probably be better.
Yeah, I mean, it's eating capacity. I guess not much capacity, honestly.
Yeah.
Also, we had a lot of folks over on our fourth wall saying, and this is ironic, the thing to improve this ride would be a physical gun. Which is just like, make it like Buzz in Toy Story Mania. And actually there was a lot of people saying this to improve it. And this person summed it up the best with this quote, implode the building. Basically what you just said, Grant.
Yeah.
Get rid of it. So
I'm on board with it.
Yeah,
they can still do it.
They could still get rid of this bad boy. Moving on to 5, and we're changing the title of this section to 5 goods and however many bads. That way it just limits me to 5, and then we could discuss more goods, so I'm not taking all of them. Hilariously, to debut this section titled 5 goods and however many bads, it was very hard for me to come up with 5 goods. So here I am trying to come up with 5 good things to say about this ride, which before I made it 5 goods to limit myself to just 5. Like, I got to put a limit on myself so that we have more to discuss. And now here's a ride where I'm like really scratching my head to try and come up with 5 good things. So that's the context you need for this list. Look, it's a true video game experience. So that'll appeal to gamers. You know, there's things that your rewritability, if you want to get a high score, there's like different things you could discover, different crates to move. I could see if I was a video game person, like maybe this would be something I would be into.
Sure.
Right? Yep. Next good. The tech is really cool, I suppose. You know, like they spent a lot of time with this gesture tracking technology. Do I like its implementation? No. But, you know, it's cool. I like, kudos to them for making it. Next good I wrote is Tom is here. I like Tom.
And now our project lead, the brand new Peter Parker.
Hey, what's up? I'm Peter Parker.
Next good I wrote was you could interact with the environment. I think that's kind of cool that you could just like pull things. That was actually one of my favorite things about the ride, was pulling things away as opposed to just shooting things. That's like a fun thing to do. I highly recommend you do that, you know, if you're on this ride. And then the last thing I wrote here as I squeezed the last bit of toothpaste out of this very empty toothpaste tube is I like the team aspect of it. I think that's really fun that there is a competition style ride where it's a team score, which means you have to work together with all the people in your car. And in perfection, if you are a car full of sickos, you could be like, all right, you cover this quadrant, I'll cover that quadrant, and then we'll just kind of game this thing. But, you know, that would require you finding 4 people who really dig this ride. And good luck.
Yeah,
so
never been done.
Never been done before. You guys have any more goods you want to, you know, squeeze out
for
here?
it.
Yeah, I think my good is that it's only 4 minutes. But I think if it was longer, they could have done more. But I do like that you're not stuck having to deal with it for much longer than.
Yeah, and it's also embarrassing that after the 4 minutes, my arm is like pretty sore. Like I'm kind of tired after this ride.
Yeah, very.
And that's eye-opening for me. Byron, do you have a good here?
Yeah, I'll add some. First and foremost, this actually might be a bad because there's a single rider line. It really bailed me out a couple nights ago when I felt like I had to do my due diligence and get on this to remember what this ride was really about. So that saved me a ton of time because the wait was 45 minutes. I mean, I guess this could go up in the bad later, but a single rider line, riding this by yourself is a really sad experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, I think the pre-show and like the world building in general, I think is pretty good. I mean, like before you get on the ride, I like the idea that there's this worldwide engineering brigade. It brings a lot of the smartest, like young minds together into this like think tank of creating stuff thing. It kind of has very much like of a WED kind of feel in like kind of a fictionalized Marvel sense.
Yeah.
I enjoy that the pre-show introduces like the ride vehicle as this functional new piece of tech that you're trying out.
But anyway, you guys are here today to help us test the web slinger vehicle. Using onboard tech, you will be able to sling webs just like my buddy Spider-Man.
I like when ride vehicles are like serving a purpose to the story. I like that you immediately have to. There's a problem at hand where Peter Parker's spider bot creation just starts running amok while he's trying to do this presentation and show off to you.
Peter, your presentation is getting away from you.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, Sharon. I would just initiate the safety protocols. It'd be great.
Problem with that,
So
Peter.
anyway, you want to sling a web. All you gotta do is sling your arm in the direction you want to shoot the web, and that's it.
Peter, your spider bots are continuing to replicate and are consuming everything in their path.
It happens very quick, unfortunately. They have to pump people through the pre-show, so they're getting through it like really quick. I enjoy this is like throughout the queue, by the way. They have this is one of the better uses of projection, I think.
Yeah,
is like up in the vents. They have these spider bots. You see them occasionally walking by when they start taking over the campus. I don't know how they do it.
There's also a practical spider bot that's above the restrooms outside.
True,
that's kind of fun to look at.
Yeah. Like even when you get
off
off
there
the
was
ride.
more of that in the ride. But they were like, you know what? You know where this practical animatronic spider bot will really get a lot of mileage? Above the restrooms. Why would we put this in the ride?
But yeah, I think the ones that you see navigating the vents, I think are really well done for projections. I don't really even know how they do it because it looks like a real vent, yet somehow you're seeing a projection of it. That's neat. And then when you move... Look, I'm trying here.
That's neat. Is crazy.
Neat is so fucking funny, dude.
I'm trying here. I do like.
Could you imagine if you were the Imagineer who created this ride, and if you like, let's say they got on a ride through with you, and your first thing you said after was, "That was neat."
Look, that's about as good as they're gonna get. I
That's
feel like
true.
at this point, I'm sorry. Like, and I do feel bad because I'm sure a lot of really hard work went into this.
Yeah, they were
And
given what they had to get.
They had a lot
of.
of constraints, so I don't even know if it's like you could completely knock like the Imagineers.
I don't knock the Imagineers for
as much
any
as
of the
just
stuff
the
that comes out
mandate.
lately. That's like, maybe not up to standard because that's what they're working with. I
Yeah.
think it's a very talented team of individuals that
And
are
you-
given, a bunch of turds and told to, put some paint on them
And you
asking
often
not to stink.
And you often hear from Imagineers like, yes, all those ideas that everyone always brings up, like I want this, and that's you. We want that too. It's just there's they have to stay within the confines of budget, space, etc., marketability. But anyways, after the pre-show of this, I do like the reveal of the loading area. I actually think it's a pretty neat loading area, especially since you start elevated above, you have that big reveal window so you could see the beautiful ride vehicles.
Yeah.
So it does give you the feeling like, oh, like I'm actually going to go on a cool ride.
Yeah,
it's short.
I certainly thought that.
It's short-lived, but I do like the look of the ride vehicles. They're very much
It's the hope that kills
They're a
you.
larger version of it is the hope that kills. Way to go, Ted. But I think they're larger ride vehicles, I think, than Toy Story Manias, because I think those fit like 2 on each side, right? And now you're in rows of 4. So they're hunkier versions of that. It's cool that you kind of feel like you're enclosed in a capsule once you do get inside them. And then you do start moving through practical space, and that's the only time of the ride that I really feel like you do. Like you actually see some themed walls, and man, I'm really reaching here. And
when someone is trying to get the last bit of ketchup from like one of those glass ketchup bottles, and they're like smacking the shit out of the bottom of it.
Oh,
I'm seeing
I'm
you
karate,
verbally
I'm karate
doing,
chopping
You're
that
karate
bottle.
chopping the hell out of it right now.
I'm hitting that 57.
Don't give me hope.
You did make me realize one more good, and this is legitimate. I do think the pre-show legitimately sets you up for what the story is. I don't like the story, but I am well aware of what's going on when I'm on this ride. So kudos to a concise, crisp little pre-show that they made.
And it actually seems like a plausible, yes, the tourist is in there, but you were part of a demonstration.
Yeah.
And it's very clear that it's like, oh, you're being aided by this machine that we designed to do this.
I suppose, yes.
So it's like, a lot of times you're on the tourist saves the day, and it's like, why the hell are you calling on me to do this kind of stuff? Where it's like you are already kind of there in the moment, and the machine's basically designed to do it for you.
I mean, there's got to be some suspension of disbelief. It's Spider-Man.
It is Spider-Man. It is. I do appreciate that this is played off as not this like super grim. Like they stuck to it being lighthearted, very much in the spirit of being a supplementary attraction. But at the end of the day, it is Spider-Man. So
we should do a challenge where we get on this ride, go to Pym, have a beer, get on this ride, go to Pym, have a beer, and do that until the park closes and see where we land. By the way, also on the fact of it being a team game, I did read in that Reddit thread from Cody is Lucky that he often does ride single rider. And so he said, top score you can get is like 800K without the bosses. So really is dependent on whoever you're playing with. And me, I ride single rider all the time, me being Cody. And he said that like I myself could get usually the score up to like 300 by myself.
300,000?
300,000.
Oh, really?
Or like, or whatever. I can't remember the number he said.
Oh, I hope it's because I wouldn't feel as bad. I got 200,000.
Yeah, I think
on my last ride. So I'm like, that seems like I don't think I did that well.
He basically said he could get it up pretty high, and then and so it would be fun to ride this with a ringer. Like if I somehow if I went with two pals, we got on this ride, and then this Cody is Lucky guy comes on, and we're like, wow, we're really good at this game, and then the next game we do it, it's like not even close. It's like maybe we drank too many drinks at Pym's. But moving on to the bad.
It's hard to get it up that high after enough drinks at Pym's. So
that's true.
I have a friend that's really. We're all really good at Buzz. That. Buzz is, I think, like a competitive game that we all like actually want to get competitive. But
what's the highest level called again?
Galactic Hero.
That's right. I don't think I've ever been a Galactic Hero.
He drinks and then he'll just be like, he'll talk to us in the other car, and then he'll still be hitting everything. It's crazy to watch him
awesome.
Just go off.
Does he do dual? I've seen someone go dual pistols.
I've seen him max out both.
That's incredible.
While wasted, while talking shit to us the whole
full
time.
Laura Croft mode.
Yeah, it's wild.
That's awesome.
Shout out Isaiah.
Moving on to the bad here, and shockingly, not as hard for me to come up with these. Let's begin. The movement aspect of this was something heavily complained about on Reddit, on our fourth wall. I get that it's a cool technology, but you can't realistically ask the average tourist to consistently move their arms in a way that will be picked up by this software. I know they say it's like very, very delicate, but really you're doing like you're serving pizzas the entire time, and it's a lot. I myself, I feel like I'm in moderate shape, and I was tired by the end of this. So it's
just constantly moving. It's a bit of an arm workout. I mean, don't quite build up to the Chris Hemsworth runs at this point, but I feel like maybe with enough work we can get there.
Yeah.
It's a big ask, and for that to be the main mechanic, the sole mechanic for the game, is kind of crazy to me. That's just not knowing your audience at all, it feels like. I mean, do you guys feel similar about this being the only way you could fire your weapon in this game?
Yeah, I tried like flinging the wrist, like that didn't work, so I start like karate chopping, but it just gets tiring. And it's not like I'm
karate
like, why am I hurting?
Is so funny.
Yeah, and after a while I'm like, this is not like, why am I putting myself through this for this attraction?
I just thought of an armchair engineering. The one redeeming thing they could do for this ride is if you were able to purchase an on-ride video of you, because how ridiculous you'd look, just really locked in. Also, I'm gonna try pointing next time I'm on this, just like pointing like Mickey and Fantasmic. That'll be pretty fun.
You saying you're gonna ride this again is crazy.
I feel like I have. I always do get thirsty to get on these rides after we cover them, even the bad ones, except for Supercharged. The next bad. There's no physical sets, really. It's a heavy screen reliant ride. It's basically all screens, even including the pre-show for the most part. I don't like it. You know I don't like it if you follow this pod. Just give us more stuff that we could actually see and that feels like it's in the world. Nobody needed this. Give us a Spider-Man Dark ride, or give us death, or nothing, or a show. I feel like if you can't make a ride up to Spider-Man's caliber, which is among the most celebrated and popular superheroes, then don't do it. I feel like I don't get it. It feels like they knew he was the most marketable, and they were like, we got to do something. And that's kind of the ethos of the ride. We got to do something. Like, it feels like that.
It's just crazy to think that they would go through the process of making this whole ride, knowing that, you know, across the coast, everyone's crazy about the Universal Spider-Man ride.
Exactly.
And then you're still going to drop the ball this hard. Like, it has to go through so many layers of, like, approval. And there was no layer where they're like, maybe we shouldn't do this.
Well, I mean, one of the criticisms you often see online about this ride is like, it's not nearly as good as the Spider-Man in Islands of Adventure. we've talked for an hour about this ride now. This is the first time we've even mentioned that other Spider-Man ride. There was an hour's worth of valid complaints about this ride before we even had to mention the other Spider-Man ride, which is like, it's not even a contest. That ride is clearly better. That's what happens when you make a legitimate dark ride around Spider-Man, which it deserves. Next bad, completely unimaginative ride vehicle and execution. It's a rehash of what they already have in the park in Toy Story Mania and Buzz Lightyear, except worse, weirdly. Like, I'm trying to think of other rides that use a similar ride system that were markedly worse than the thing that preceded them. This has to be among the top of that crop.
Well, it just doesn't translate to the story they're trying to sell you. Because Toy Story Mania, for example, it's, hey, you're here to play Midway games.
It's a carnival game.
So you can forgive the ride vehicle stopping in front of a screen so you can play this cool interactive Midway game. With this one, where you're supposed to be saving Avengers Campus, it feels very odd to spend 90% of your ride experience, maybe 95% of your ride experience, sitting stationary in front of a screen.
Also, you're passing the screen of the other ride vehicle next to you every time you go to the next room, just further illustrating the fact that you're just looking at giant TV screens. Like, they don't even try to hide that. That's kind of crazy to me. Like, spin the vehicle around, do something. Like, it's wild. like going over this, I'm like flabbergasted by it. I'm not even angry. I'm just like, what in the world happened here? Upcharge for a minor upgrade on the experience. That's those bands you could buy. Apparently they don't work often. I can't attest to that personally, because if I bought one of these in the gift shop with my own money, I'd have to banish myself. So I
wonder how those sales are doing.
I'm sure they do well.
Yeah, there's got to be a bunch of kids that go in there. Like, I bet the spider bots do well.
The bots, and not I'm talking like those things that enhance your score. Because I personally, maybe for kids they want to get on again and have a higher score. No, there's no part of me that's like, wow, you know what? I really want to chase that high score. I'm gonna go buy this
band.
And
so you can go to a bar and be like, I'm the current record holder for WEB Slingers.
Yeah, over at Pim's, like, hey girl. Another thing to add on to the since we're on the topic of gift shops, they did not have room to build a gift shop at the exit for this ride. So essentially, the ride itself takes place in the building that used to house It's Tough to Be a Bug. And then they built a little bit of outdoor space. And of course, the queue is all outdoors because they have no room indoors to fit the queue. I think they fixed this issue when they built, because this exists, I believe, in Paris now.
Does it?
It does.
Oh, I didn't realize.
I think this is in Paris now.
They doubled down.
They built two of these.
They did double down. I didn't realize.
Yeah, because that's the other. It's either, I think it's Paris. Yeah, they have this open, I believe, in Paris now, and that one supposedly has a more extended queue because they have the space for more like indoor, which they need, by the way. Paris doesn't have SoCal weather. But it is. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that they had to build the gift shop across the main pathway of Avengers Campus, like right where you walk in. So you're like dodging stampedes of people at that exit.
Yeah.
And then you're basically like a wildebeest, like making like a river crossing to get over to the Web Supply gift shop.
I'm more excited to watch the animatronic Spider-Man they get on this ride. Honestly, that animatronic Spider-Man show outside where he's flying is pretty cool.
Yeah. No, the presentation of the building, really nice. Like if you go through the main entrance, that front entrance of Avengers Campus, you have like the meet and greet there on the side. And yes, they do that show where you have the Stunttronic.
Clear the runway. Spider-Man is cleared for takeoff. Oh no, this might hurt.
All that's all lovely. And then there's this ride. And
by the way, just throwing out the beacon here, putting up the bat signal, if you will. If there's anybody that was there the day that animatronic crashed into the side of the building, can you please? No, you weren't.
I didn't see it happen, but I was there.
Did you hear it?
No.
It sounded so funny.
Yeah, I walked by though, and you saw the whole thing messed up. I was like,
oh my God.
Do you remember when that like edited video came out like a couple weeks before?
Yeah, I do remember.
Yeah, and so everyone thought it was fake, and you just straight see it like all apart. It was crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Here goes something.
It's a very funny video.
I think they resumed the show that same day.
That's amazing.
Huh.
That's why you have a Stuntronic.
Yeah.
Man, they must have had contingency plans for that.
And the last bad I wrote here, I'm sure you guys have some more. I really wish the story was more substantial. I feel like also, if you're doing a screen-based Spider-Man ride, your limitations on stakes should be limitless at that point. You should be able to make it as crazy as you want, and yet the stakes of this are these little spider robots are overrunning an open house. Like that's what we're going with here. It doesn't help that they have constant reminders of other superheroes that are taking care of more important things.
Contacting Mr. Stark.
Don't call Mr. Stark! Don't call Mr. Stark. Sorry, Michelle. You should just call someone else, ask them to do it.
Okay.
Like, how many times do they mention, should I call Tony about it in this ride? And all I'm thinking is like, maybe you should call Tony so I have something to look at, because I'd rather go where Tony is. Tony's clearly doing something more important than this. That's not a good thing to remind your riders of, is that what's happening right now is not important enough to go on the desk of Iron Man. That's a crazy thing to point out constantly.
While simultaneously, after every round, they're like, threat level, super duper.
Elevating threat level to out of control. Should I call for more help now?
No. We can handle it. It's a small problem.
I get that that's like the through line of Peter Parker. He has the mentor kind of relationship with Tony, and he got in trouble with him in several of the films. But from a ride perspective, it just doesn't translate.
My fear, though, is that if you did up the threat level, it would that contrast with how mundane the ride experience is. Mundane's a kind word, I guess, but I think it would be even greater, and that would even make it would be a bigger issue.
I mean, but I'm asking not even for like crazy world like threat. Give us a villain that we recognize in this ride. Like, put the Green Goblin in there. Like, if he's throwing his bombs at you, you could web sling the bombs away before they hit your car. Like, that's just off the top of my head.
If
Like-
you're using screen tech, like, I think Mysterio would be crazy.
Yeah, but what if each room was
Yeah.
a different person of the Sinister Seven?
Yeah.
It's 7, right?
I think it's
I believe
6.
it's Sinister Six.
I'm going to say that again so I don't get fucking ripped
And then
apart.
supposedly,
just give us, each room is like one of the Sinister Six,
yeah, I think it's Sinister Six. And then apparently there's a thing called, I'm not a comic book person.
I'm not a huge comic book guy.
There's Sinister Six, and then there's like Sinister Syndicate. I don't know what's each.
But
used,
just give
like,
us a
but-
villain that we recognize, as opposed to these kind of like nameless, seemingly not even autonomous spider bots. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
I forgot one armchair that I just remembered.
Let's have it.
The big spider bot at the end, it should be an animatronic.
Yes.
Think like King Kong. The King Kong ride, it's all
Yeah.
screens, but you get the payoff in Islands of the giant King
Oh,
Kong.
so
like,
no screen at the end, just like have
Yeah.
it like move over
Just-
to like Toy Story Mania, like you eventually are moving with the screen at the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
Have it like pan over and then reveal this big animatronic.
yeah,
maybe.
and you could have you could have like 8 of the carts at the same time, like all circling it or whatever. So it's like you're working together with everyone. And it gets rid of another bad that I have is after the pre-show, it seems like there's a sense of urgency, and then you wait in more line, stuck behind a bunch of people. It would make more sense of like, okay, now we see we're all working together to like take down this like huge Spider-Bot animatronic.
I love that idea of having like a giant animatronic at the end. It would be somewhat redeeming.
Yeah.
I mean, do you guys have any more bads to pile on here? Or it's almost so bad of a ride, it's hard to even come up with things that are bad about it, because the whole experience is like, it feels meshed together. It all mushes together. There's nothing that stands out about this
That's
ride.
kind of, you said like the lack of a villain is it gets so samey.
It does.
Just having an endless amount of it just kind of makes it feel less substantial.
Like, the only room that even really is of note and you don't even see these in the films, is the PIM lab, which is kind of cool to see things get bigger and smaller. But the other one is like a warehouse. Then there's like the Quinjet kind of like hangar.
Well,
where it's just like
you're in like what Tantalier's collection. You're in the Guardians ride essentially at one point, right?
Start swinging.
It's weird how after that though the transitions are really awkward to me. Like, you go from the collection and then immediately you're back in there. That makes no sense.
No. They're trying to make it feel like you're going into these actual places that are all at Avengers Campus.
Yeah.
That you're going to
It
go
doesn't
experience
scan
your
that you're
day.
even in Avengers Campus. It scans that you're looking at screens, because there's nothing in between the screens physically or transition wise that would suggest that. It's crazy.
It's also a ride, I think, that was completely made to sell merchandise. Like, the ride is based off those spider bots and the little, like, web slinging things.
I believe that is true as well.
So, like, I think that's, like, a bad premise. It's literally just, the ride is just a commercial for merchandise that you can buy when you get outside.
Well, and you can make an argument that Cars Land is that too, but they did that how it should be done.
I feel like a lot of these really expensive attractions, what do you say? This was $600 million?
$500 million for Avengers Campus. So I would imagine that,
goodness.
Who knows? I'm looking at that campus. I'm trying to think. I'm scratching my head of like what could have gone towards that price tag if not for a lot of it going to this ride and the technology and all that stuff. Because
how much was that animatronic, stuntronic to develop?
I don't
because like that's got to be a big portion of it.
I hope not, because when they saw that thing crash into that wall, they were probably like, "Oh shit, there goes our budget."
Well, Cosmic Rewind was supposedly $500 million, so it's pretty crazy. This entire land was almost the same price.
I mean, we'll see.
And I will say the last time I rode this which was a couple nights ago. The first stage of this ride, I was like, you know what? Like, I'm kind of having a little bit of fun now. Like, I don't think I could rip this attraction too much. And then by the time I got off, it's just a completely different.
You got someone trying to scam you right now.
Yeah, they heard me talking. They're like, "Hey,
shut it down!
Shut it down!
The Imagineers
this is the
are coming
mouse.
after you.
This is the mouse. Shut it down!"
Let's move on to the world-class tests. This is going to be fun, and this is what you came for. This is a rubric of 10 tests, painstakingly devised by Byron and myself to determine if an attraction is world-class. To receive the highly coveted world-class pass, the attraction must pass 7 out of 10 tests. A score of 6 out of 10 leaves the attraction up for debate for world-class pass standing, and anything lower than 6 out of 10 is an automatic fail. Now, before we get into this, as I mentioned up top, we've modified our rubric based on feedback from you guys, especially from you folks over at fyapod.com. So some tests will be rewarded, and there may be some tests completely gone and some tests that are brand new. So it's fun that he had some things. It'll apply still, but I'm curious how this is. None of us know how this is going to go now. So
I spent time preparing, and I was like, there was a couple of questions. I was like, I'm really going to have to work to get this to fail. So I'm excited to see. This is going to be fun.
Okay, here we go. Starting with the average tourist test. Would the average tourist have a hard time getting on this ride? And should the average tourist get on this ride no matter what the wait or hassle? Both have to be true.
Okay.
That means it has to be easy to get on, and you would recommend that the average tourist should get on this ride no matter what.
This is a great change to this test. I was already had a pretty strong thing to fail it. I don't think it's easy to get on because the wait time is always super long. If I'm a tourist and I'm walking around and everything in that park is super long, the average wait's for what, 46 minutes?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not waiting 46 minutes, for that. And then the area has so much going on. Also, the lettering on the sign is really confusing. Like, the font of it is
actually.
It is. You see the Spider-Man meet and greet, you see the robot, you see the shop. You might not even realize that this is an attraction.
Or a Spider-Man attraction, really, even.
Yeah.
Like that's a good point.
So you might and when you're walking through that area, the ride is on your left-hand side, but you're facing the shop. So you see the shop and then you see the rest of the land. You might not even realize a ride is there. And there's so many people that can cover up the fact that there's the outside queue, and you might just walk into the land and completely miss it. And no, they shouldn't ride this. I'd be pissed if I came here and spent, all that money it cost to get there, and then that was it. Especially if I had already done Toy Story, I'd be like, "There's 2 of these things."
Yeah, there's 2 exactly. Like, didn't I just do this? Also, like, we changed this too because like the average tourist test before was basically starting to turn into an automatic point for almost every ride. So this kind of balances things out in the force. Byron, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, we've already discussed the capacity is not that great. Like you mentioned, Toy Story Mania, which is usually around a similar average wait time than this is. Like, if you're going to pick one, like if I were to recommend one, because it's weird waiting almost an hour for both of them, I'd say spend your time in the Toy Story Mania ride or line. And then on top of that, if you're at Avengers Campus, Mission Breakout is often an hour plus.
Yes,
I'd say. So if you're going to spend an hour waiting for an attraction at Avengers Campus, you're going to do Mission Breakout. Are you going to spend another hour waiting for a Toy Story Mania I mean, not a copy. It's like it's a downgrade. So.
Well, speaking to the spirit too of the average tourist test in general, there are probably, and I think this is fair to say, there are probably several families that come from out of town, visit the park for the first time, don't know anything. They see Guardians and they see Spider-Man and they think, oh, well, Spider-Man is like a bigger star. I'm going to go on the Spider-Man ride. That must be the big one. And they only wait for that ride as opposed to Guardians. That's so sad. I feel so bad for that family, which is the spirit of this test is like, you would, if I could talk to every one of them, I would be like, do not waste your time on Spider-Man. Go on Guardians. If you're going to spend that much money time-wise, don't spend it on Spider-Man because it's weird to say that there are better versions of this ride in the world and 2 of them are in the resort. Like Buzz Lightyear and Toy Story Mania. Like that's crazy to me. So no, this is a resounding fail for me.
Fail.
That's 0 for 1. Moving on. Exactly. The smartphone test. Does the queue of this ride have enough to keep you off of your phone? Not literally, but does the queue offer enough immersion to keep you entertained?
No. You're outdoor in the switchbacks.
Yes,
like that.
Forever.
Yeah, I'm on my phone for that for sure. And then other than the pre-show, you go inside and there's like some lockers. It's just a bunch of cement walls.
It's pretty rough.
Yeah, and it's kind of dark. Like it's very dark and gloomy in there, and you feel like you're in a warehouse. Also, offhand, Disney made a video about this recently, talking about is modern theming like actually theming when you're theming something that's in present day. It could be the best theming in the world, but because it feels so similar to what we experience in real life, you're not as, like immersed into it. So
Yeah.
with that, like, it's like, there's nothing special about me seeing, some factory pieces or cement wall. Yeah.
Industrial setting. Yeah.
So like, I'd rather, talk to my friends or be on my phone. I'm not like paying attention to the queue.
Exactly. And we changed the wording in this too, just because like some folks would be like, well, I do pop on my phone, like in some of these like great queues. It's like, well, the spirit of it is like, are they making an effort here to be immersive in their queue? And no, not even a little bit in this one. Like they obviously there were some space constraints, as Byron mentioned before, but even given the space they had, they didn't really do anything spectacular with it. In the outside portion, there's barely anything to look at.
Yeah, I mean, as entertaining as the little cutouts are of little Becky and little Timmy with their little engineering resumes and how impressive that is, that they're brilliant at age like 12 or whatever and inventing all this stuff, it doesn't really hold your attention very long.
I didn't even know that was there.
Oh yeah, they're straight up just like little, like they're like, they're just like these kind of like wall like sign write outs where it's like I have like a photo of some kid like this is whatever this person like kind of like a bio.
This queue
on these
outdoor,
like these fictional little kids that are like these geniuses that are probably, I guess like it sets up the world okay, but once again it's presented as honestly something you could get at like a Six Flags.
I was just
park,
about
right?
to say no disrespect. This is like a Six Flags queue.
They do this for the Wonder Woman Flight of Courage ride where they kind of they just have like there's the typed out descriptions on a flat cutout.
It's no better than like having just TV screens in the queue just showing Spider-Man highlights, which honestly I might even prefer compared to what they have, because it's like at least I'm like, okay, I like the films. Like, you're not going to give me any theming, then I might as well watch some cool shit.
It's like the Simpsons queue.
Exactly.
Like, that's better.
And the entire and like that's the thing is this looks like overflow queue.
It does.
But that is the main queue, because as soon as you step into the building, that's when the pre-show starts, and because they had no room for indoor queues. So perhaps a victim of circumstance that they didn't have the space, but you know what, they still did it, and this is what guests are going through. I say it's a fail.
I mean, you could have enclosed that queue and done switchbacks in a creative way. I mean, even going back to the Spider-Man ride in Islands of Adventure, they hide switchbacks by making the switchbacks cubicles that going through the daily, going through the newspaper. I think it's the Daily Bugle.
There could have been like screens also that look like windows into the factory or into people testing out the tech or something.
I agree. Something. It's just, this is a fail.
Even if it is outdoors, I feel like they could have had some sort of motion or something. I mean, this is kind of a critique on Avengers Campus in general, just lack of kinetic energy, but
complete lack of it.
Yeah, just some sort of moving pieces in there. Like, once again, this is like the worldwide engineering brigade. Like, there's so many opportunities to like be seeing the cool toys, and we're not We only see them mainly as like in that pre-show room or just as projections.
Or we hear the I believe her name. What is her name? In the Sharon in this the AI coming over the loudspeaker.
Oh,
being
that's
like,
the one.
Should we call in Mr. Stark? Should we call in Iron Man so you guys could see him?
Yeah.
No. Okay. Never mind.
He's too busy outside greeting guests in a line
that's
outside films.
Threat level midnight.
He's too busy becoming Doctor Doom. Moving on to well, that's a fail for me. I just almost assumed the result there. I'm gonna guess that's a fail. Okay, we're at 0 for 2.
Let's go.
Moving to the Tony Stark test number 3. How innovative is this attraction? Does it push theme park tech forward? I'm gonna move to you, Grant, because this is I'm curious.
There's no way. There's no way. It's not the first time this tech has been. I know they can say that, 60 movements per, which I don't believe because I don't feel like my movements are tracked on that well. But the Lego Ninjago ride already existed. It doesn't push tech forward because you're saying, this is the only thing that's kind of unique, but it exists in another ride that's at a park that, it's not, Disney's supposed to be like the upper echelon that already exists. It's a shooting dark ride. So that's not very unique about it.
The ride system has been done before.
Yeah.
Even the main mechanic has been done before to a lesser degree, but
yeah. And I don't see I don't see this influencing any theme park tech moving forward. I think that the guest feedback is pretty strong.
Yeah. I'm curious, and this is a genuine question. Do you guys know anybody who really does like this ride? And they're not trolling?
No.
I don't either.
Maybe the guy on Reddit.
Well, yeah. I have to go back to that thread. I do believe he even was like, I know it's not a great ride, but if there's things to appreciate about it, which is always code for this is a bad attraction. Honestly, this is the only test I really saw passing because you could make the argument of the motion gesture technology, but we already talked about they have something similar at Secret Life of Pets that tracks your face as you're moving. This is already based on arm moving technology from Legoland, and there's already shooter dark rides using the same type of ride system. So
I'd have to straight up hear some ride designer in the future be like, oh, for this new ride, we actually it was specifically Web Slingers code or whatever that we had to pull from to get that precise thing to unless that's happening, which is not going to happen. This is a definite fail.
Also, if anybody aped this ride moving forward, that moved theme park tech backwards. So
no, it would have to be there had to be some weird little unique thing about this particular way of handling the motion sensor that hasn't been done before, that had to be proven in the future to have only came from this ride. And I don't see it happening.
Also, Tom Holland in the pre-show room, I believe that's Musion. That's a Musion projection from my.
Well, none of that's new.
So, this is a fail.
It moves it backwards. It's the classic I'm a tourist, something went wrong, and now I have to go fix it on a screen.
Exactly.
That's what ruined Universal for a while.
I really feel like they're looking at each other all right, this one never again.
Yeah.
They have to be. They have to be. There's no... I haven't seen anybody... they don't advertise this ride.
Rightfully so.
Whenever Disney has a new ride, they push the hell out of it. I'm struggling to remember many campaigns around this ride. Even present day, you will still see things being pushed.
They put Spider-Man, the character, in a lot of the advertising, but not the ride itself.
No, because even Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which people have their own issues with, there's billboards of that everywhere.
Yeah,
around.
They promote the meet and greet with Spider-Man. I feel more than they do the ride.
I agree. This is a fail. I'm a fail on it.
It's a fail.
Same.
Oh my god! All right, 0 for 3.
Let's go.
Moving on to test number 4. The Hollywood test, and we reworded this one as well. That was hard to say. Could the story or world presented in the attraction be a feature-length movie?
Absolutely not. There's no way. There's no depth to the story. It doesn't build the world in any way. You're just presented with your Spider-Man's there, the Spider-Bots got out, and then you just shoot them down, but there's no stakes, there's no character building, there's nothing additionally added. There's not enough substance to make a full feature-length film out of it.
I actually kind of disagree.
Oh no! Let's hear it.
I feel like it does. If we're talking about the world building, and yes, it's obviously very condensed to fit within an attraction's timeline, but you essentially have this character that's orchestrating this big worldwide engineering brigade. his inventions. He comes up with this new invention. He gets a little too, in over his head or confident. And it gets out of control. And then he has to take this supplementary invention, and then people out of their element have to join into this fight. Like, there is a world where this could be pulled off in a feature-length film. Would it be like the best feature-length film? No, then you'd have to develop characters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think the world presented and the stage could be set, or is set, to feature a feature-length, to create a feature-length
This is
film.
interesting because it's like there have been several Spider-Man movies, and you know what makes a good or a bad Spider-Man movie, or what would eventually become one. A movie in which there really is no villain. It's just kind of, I guess, your own hubris is the villain, I suppose, in this one.
Which has been done many times already in Marvel films.
Yeah, but just because you can make it a movie doesn't mean it's a good one. Also,
Or just forget that it's even Spider-Man.
But could you see Hollywood actually writing this, where he has his lab, he's been given this grant from Tony Stark to make this tech. He makes the tech too much, gives it its own autonomy and AI capability. It turns on him. He has to save the world. Oh man!
But he's not saving the world. He's only saving Avengers. I agree. If the Spider-Bots took, that would make the ride better too.
It does say that they could take over the world though in the ride.
Yeah, but they never do. If they left Avengers Campus, like let's say they started, taking down the Eiffel Tower or something, that expands the story to a level of that. But the story presented ends in Avengers Campus. It doesn't expand that far. So you have to go by the story presented, not what if.
I also disagree that not every superhero has to save the entire world. I don't think the ride and the story should suffer based on how big the franchise has gotten. I mean, like, look at like the first Thor movie. He doesn't save the world. He saves like this tiny town in like the middle of nowhere.
Oh, man, this is tough because I really want to fail this.
So if you remove like the massive, like if you remove the massive superhero curtain of it, there is a world that involve a story.
I think, unfortunately, there is enough of a story to make a movie. It's going to be a shitty one, but it'll be. I'm sorry. I think I have to pass it. I have to. Hey, look.
I got to be honest.
If you disagree with us in the comments,
please disagree.
We could bring it to court later, and we could get it to 0 if we need. I'm going to have to pass it. That's.
I tried.
Pass for me.
You tried. That's one.
I tried.
1 for 4. Test number 5, the Simpson test. How likely is this to be replaced with something new?
I think it is very likely.
I think
to
it's
be
extremely
replaced.
likely.
Yeah, it's an easy, I think it's a cheap spot, or it's not there's not a lot that went into like the actual building itself. I think they're already looking at trying to enhance Avengers Campus, and when they open that new like Tony Stark arm thing and the new e-ticket, if it gets to a point, like what's the timeline of this test?
Yeah.
Is that like 10, 15 years? There's no
I
way.
just think in general, like it would ever be something like a Pirates that stays forever.
Yeah.
No way.
This building was a theater once. It can be a theater again.
I think
they
that'd be
could
good for
gut it
the
out
land.
again. And like, I don't feel like they need 4 rides in Avengers Campus, especially if this ride is taking only 600 passengers an hour. They could, I think maybe they still keep it Spider-Man, but I could see them definitely removing the ride and creating some different sort of Spider-Man
This is a
experience.
space that has been transformed in a significant way 3 times over the last 2 decades.
I could even see them going as far as to like, like Mickey Mouse's house, or even at Disney World, they do those like very intricate, like you have to wait an hour to meet these characters. You go into Cinderella's castle. It could be a walkthrough where they're going through web and whatever, and that's where at the end of it is where you actually meet Spider-Man
see
in
that.
like a meet and greet situation, because it gets so freaking cluttered out there in the main walkway with those people lining up to meet Spider-Man in such a high traffic area.
I will acknowledge that it's weird to fail this if the wait is 45 minutes, but we also have to acknowledge that it's that long because the capacity is atrocious. And there's nothing else in this land, and people think it's a good ride, but eventually, people will figure out that this is a horrible ride.
And not only that, I think those wait times are going to fall to the floor as soon as those other Avengers rides open up.
I agree. I think this is going to easily be replaced.
Yeah.
I don't think right away, but it is going to. They gotta still try and get their money's worth. Sell some more of those those web slinging enhancers.
So that's a fail. Hey, look, we could still get this to be the lowest ride of all time on this.
Yeah, we're on track.
Hey, look, we're gonna be fair. We're gonna be fair.
Now, test number 6. This is one of the new tests. So the world premiere of this, if this is chronologically how it plays out, but, the sleeper cell test. Is there a sound or soundtrack on this ride that if heard outside the park would immediately activate you like the Manchurian Candidate or the Winter Soldier and place you on the ride? And a credit to Jordana Lunda and Feisty for helping come up with some of this test over on FYApod.com. First off, I've mentioned this on this pod before and even on the previous pod that we did, the Saddest Podcast on Earth. I'm a big sound guy. A lot of my memories are associated with sound, and I think credit needs to be done for people putting an effort in that because it's a huge part of our sense memory. And this ride, there's not one damn thing that I could think of that if I heard it, I would be like, oh, that's from Web Slingers. For example, just to kind of like tell you what I'm looking for, you hear the whistle in the cells from Pirates of the Caribbean. You're in Pirates of the Caribbean. You hear a raptor screech. You're on Jurassic World. Like, I mean, I know that's from the film. Big Thunder Mountain, you hear the coyote screaming as you go through the caves. You're on Big Thunder Mountain.
The whistle, yeah.
There's nothing on this ride that I could think of. The soundtrack is like from the film, kinda. It's very not memorable.
That's the thing is the only thing that brings me online for like when I think of this ride is the do 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 do.
Yeah, but you're not.
But that isn't that just that's from the movies.
You're thinking
right?
of the movie. You're not thinking of the ride immediately.
Yeah. That's a great test, by the way. That's unique as well. So like GG on that. But yeah, I think it's a fail. There's nothing sound wise. Same thing as that song comes to mind. But again, it's from the movies. It's like playing during the credits or during like the intro or something. So I don't think it's isolated to the ride. It makes me think of the IP as a whole versus just the ride experience.
I forget which YouTube channel too also covered this. I think it was Every Frame a Painting. Shout out to them. They do great cinematic coverage. But there was a video they made about why are Marvel themes not memorable.
Oh, and no one could pick out the score for...
I bet you I could walk down the street in Hollywood, a place where people come to for the movies as tourists. And if I asked them to hum the current Spider-Man theme, they couldn't do it. I guarantee it.
Well, that's the thing. I only know it because of this ride.
But I bet you if I asked them like to hum the Avengers theme, I would get a couple people that could ask them to hum the original Spider-Man theme. Of course, there's nothing memorable about even the theme. That no disrespect, but it's true. So.
Should we say that music itself doesn't qualify?
I think music should qualify.
Should qualify.
You should be rewarded if you
the Space Mountain
theme. I'm immediately there, and that should be rewarded for having that score match the ride. The indie theme even. There's things that are exclusive to that soundtrack that I would immediately recognize, or sound bites from that ride from indie that I would immediately recognize. But that's a fail. Moving on.
I can't get over I can't get over the fence of it not being. It's not exclusive to the ride. So
there should be like a unique sound for the sling in the webs.
You would think there's opportunities for sounds that would.
What about the spider bots? I barely even remember what they sound like. They just sound like generic Transformers robots.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. Maybe I haven't been on this ride. I have been on this enough times. It's just so unmemorable that. I think fail's the right way to go.
Moving on to test 7. That is now 1 for 6. The premature detraculation test. Does this ride finish too soon? Or is it a good length? Some rides last too long.
I like the addition to the test.
Yes.
I think that this ride does finish too soon because the story, if it was longer, it could present itself with with a story with more depth. You could introduce more things. I think because of the limited space and the limited time on the ride, you're not really allowed to kind of be immersed in the story. And that's what Disney's supposed to be great at, is storytelling.
Correct.
And it's not a bad story by any means. It's just limited. And I think even with the tech presented, if it had a more robust depth story like any other attraction, then I think you would be a better attraction. So I don't think the length is good.
It's not satisfying in terms of like a beginning, middle, end. It's weird because I could actually fail this test both ways. It feels simultaneously too short in that it's not satisfying at all. Yeah. And it simultaneously feels too long because I'm exhausted by it physically and mentally. Because the rooms are all the same and I'm physically getting exhausted. I think it's too long and too short. It's just bad.
There should be show scenes in the middle of each room to give your arms a break that also do some storytelling.
Yeah, some transition devices. It's just, I think this is a fail on both counts, which is somehow, I didn't think that was even possible. Because there are rides that are too long.
Yeah.
Some people would say something like even Living with the Land is too long.
Offhand would lose it on
Offhand would lose his mind. He ain't here though.
Yeah, I don't think just by the nature of this ride makes this impossible to pass. Just because I really don't feel like the duration, like the time duration of this ride, I think it's a proper length. But you definitely want to get off this ride before it ends.
Exactly, dude.
There's no way it wins, because if you do make it too short, then it's too short.
Yes.
It really is too short or too long because you're not having fun flopping your wrists around like an imbecile.
It's crazy. They've just made a ride that there's no real sweet spot for it.
It's really the perfectly wrong length.
Which is why it's like, oh, maybe it's a bad ride.
I really was like, I thought I was going to give this one a point too, but like I really have to be honest. Like I wanted to get off.
Please let me detraculate.
Not like that.
Yeah. That's a fail. 1 for 7. Moving it to another new test, test number 8, the run it back test. Do you want to ride this ride again after it ends? Is 2 times in the same day appropriate? Is there enough in the experience offered to warrant multiple re-rides? And do you have bounce in your step after this ride?
The only way you're riding this thing again is if you lost a bet, I think.
No way. I challenge you. Unless you're like a super gamer, nobody is waiting 45 minutes to get on this thing again. That's crazy.
It's not even worth it for a bet. Like I'd rather bet to do Grizzly in the same thing, or Pixar Pal Around. Like there's other rides that are more fun for like a bet. There's no way you're running this back. If you rode it once, it's by accident, or you ended up having to do a podcast about it.
Exactly. I think this is an easy fail.
And I've ran back. I've ran back Heimlich. I wouldn't ride this back.
Yeah, like even if I was on the ride and the cast member was like, "Hey, there's nobody in line. You want to just go again?" I'd say no. I'm being honest. I would say no. I'm really being honest.
I'm not gonna lie. I've had some very wonderful, gracious cast members in the past that have offered to get me on Web Slingers, and
you declined.
Maybe 1 or 2 times. I didn't want to say. I wanted to be polite, so I did it. But a couple times, like, oh, I got this thing, I got this reservation.
Yeah,
and I would not do that. I don't think for any other ride. And I feel really bad saying. I don't know if I'll even keep that in, but
I gotta go literally do anything else.
Yeah,
no, it's tough. I can't. It's really hard for me to think of another ride where if I was offered not even an immediate walk on, an immediate sit on, like I could stay on the ride and go on again. This Fast and the Furious Supercharged for sure. Speaking of which, just a quick little anecdote here. I was on the studio tour recently, and we were pulling into the Fast and the Furious Supercharged hangar, and I had this thought where I was like, man, if only we could just skip this, it'd be awesome.
Oh, every time.
And as soon as I thought that, the tour guide said, "So sorry, the ride is experiencing technical difficulties, so we're unfortunately going to have to skip the Fast and the Furious Supercharged." And I literally cheered, but the entire tram was groaning because they don't know that's a terrible ride. And I was like, "Oh no, you guys, you're gonna be okay. Trust me,
they've been spared.
You've been spared." But those 2 rides, those are the only 2 I could think of where I would not go back to back.
I agree.
Oh, well, now we're at 1 for 8. So moving on to test number 9. This is another new test, the last new test. That was a great sentence. The exit through the gift shop test. Would you pick up merch for this ride as you exit through the gift shop? Does this ride inspire you to sport your love for it? And shout out to Brian H. for helping us come up with this.
I wanted to call it the Banksy test.
Also shout out to Alexandria
obscure.
as well for helping us come up with the Run It Back.
Thank you, Alexandria. I'm sorry I stepped over you there.
No worries.
I don't know why. I originally wanted to call this the Banksy test, but I feel like that's too obscure because that documentary is too old now.
I believe so.
It's a film called Exit Through the Gift Shop. It's like really good, but it's old now. So,
does this ride inspire you to be like, I'm a fan of this ride? I gotta wear that on my chest.
There's no way. I've generally like I've looked in that gift shop. I've looked at the arm things, and I've been like, maybe.
Yeah.
I've thought maybe. I've looked at the spider bots, a little toy, and I've thought maybe. And then I went on the ride, and then after I was like fuck no. Like, there's no
you know
way.
what's crazy about this ride possibly failing this test is there are literally items you could buy in the gift shop made to use on the ride, and I still wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And also I have to admit this, if I'm being honest, I was at the park recently. Byron, you were there too. I don't know if you noticed this. We were on line for Rise of the Resistance. There was a couple next to us. They looked like they were from out of the country. One of them had a Web Slingers shirt on.
Wow.
But it was like the Spirit jersey that said like Web on the back. Like,
oh, I've seen those.
And I was just like, are you kidding me?
It was really funny because actually we didn't really bring this up.
But I think it's because they like Spider-Man.
So funny enough, I was because I was entering it through the single rider line to get on the ride vehicle, and I saw someone like toward the front of the line in the standby with a Web shirt on, and I was like, oh, like maybe I like that. We're gonna like, do I pass? Like I don't like maybe people are buying these. Like I'm sure people are, but then I immediately realized he turned around and he's because the costumes that the cast members wear are like Web shirts with like it looks like they're on a college campus.
Yeah.
So he blended in with everyone there. I was like, oh wait, never mind. He works here.
Yeah, exactly.
I have, funny enough, I think a couple people I know have worn. I've seen them with Web shirts on,
but Web is like,
I don't think they purchased the shirts. I think because they work for Disney. So.
I think there's also something to be said about a shirt that is for the IP. It represents like Spider-Man. And as opposed to like, I am repping this ride. I am buying a Haunted Mansion T-shirt.
Because of course people are going to buy Spider-Man merch and stuff like that.
For instance, I went to Alton Towers recently. I got a Nemesis Reborn. I immediately bought a Nemesis Reborn T-shirt because I was like, I want people to know I got on this ride.
Yeah.
Or I survived Goliath at Six Flags or something like that.
What I do enjoy about this test, not to toot our own horns on the first day that we're using
well, also
this
Brian
test,
H. was the one who helped us come up with it. So
why I think we should give Brian H. some credit here then is this test, in theory, like you could have a very popular ride that you're proud of repping, that everyone like the masses, the general public, etc. like, oh yeah, that ride kicks ass. It's great.
Yeah.
Or you could have kind of a more obscure ride that a theme park sicko.
Exactly.
Like kind of like an inside joke or an in the loop thing.
Even Nemesis Reborn it falls in that category. It's kind of like a culty ride that not many people would know, but I was like, I love this ride.
But a coaster enthusiast from anywhere on the globe would know that shirt.
Exactly.
So I think it works on multiple levels. And for this one, I don't think it works on either because I think people are willing to buy Spider-Man stuff, but I don't think people are very enthused about buying Web Slinger stuff.
Web Slingers, the ride on your chest, would be the most embarrassing thing you could possibly put on your chest.
I'll put it this way. If you see people
other
wearing...
than being bare-chested.
If you see people wearing or Web Slinger merch, I feel like they bought it at that web supply store before actually experiencing the
Or
ride.
they just like Spider-Man. Like,
Or
and
they
they don't
like-
understand. Like, and that's the only place you could really buy Spider-Man merch. You're not buying it because of the ride. If you want to fight me on that in the comments, I challenge you to find somebody that's like, I love Web Slingers so much. I want people to know I love this ride. It's not happening. It's just not going to happen.
They should have an I survived Web Slingers shirt just because of how bad the attraction is. Like I would get that. Like the
ironically,
irony.
I would get that. Yeah.
Okay, I guess it's a pass.
No, it's not a pass.
Whoa.
I
That'd be a pass for all the wrong reasons. So in the
I saw
spirit of the
somebody-
test, I have to fail it.
Yeah, and I saw somebody wear this is true. I saw somebody wear I survived It's a Small World, which I thought was really funny. But no, this is a fail for me.
Let's go.
What do you got here, Grant?
Oh, it's a fail.
Yeah, for posterity's purposes.
Yeah,
All right, that's
100% fail.
1 for 9. What is the lowest score we've ever had on this podcast?
3.
So it officially is now the lowest ever
go.
on the podcast. Congratulations. Web
Congratulations. You
I
did
came in
something.
with one goal.
You did something unique.
Slingers. And also, just in case you're wondering, with the old rubric, I still think he would be here. Oh, maybe not, because average tourist test, it might pass that, so it would be a 2 at this point. So,
It still would have been lowest.
it still would have been lowest, I think, because right now we have the test number 10, the fine wine test. Has this ride aged well? Has your opinion of the attraction appreciated or depreciated since your first experience? Or, if it's a new ride, do you believe it will age well? This is going to age like milk.
It already has.
Yeah. Any screen attraction.
No, exactly. Especially this one, though.
I'm telling, like,
nothing redeeming about it, really.
My opinion of this ride has just been on a steady trajectory down.
And I've
zero upticks on any of my experiences.
I agree. And I've gotten on this with an open mind, trying to like find, silver linings, and I can't.
I thought I was going to get the uptick two nights ago. I thought it was happening, and then you're like halfway through it, I was like, oh yeah, maybe. And then by the end of it, it was like, no, this is awful. It's a bad ride. Like I can't fight for this at all. It's so bad.
Yeah, I went and like I like Midway Mania. We're trying to learn how to get good at that one. Like we're great at Buzz, so I like learning about like the interactive rides, how to do good. Same thing with the Justice League Dark Ride at Six Flags.
Yeah.
Like learning how to try to get good. I think that's
The
better
mechanics,
than this.
yeah.
But this one, it's like I know what to do, and it's still just not entertaining to me.
It's really funny you bring up Justice League because I've been, because they have clones of it like all over.
Yeah.
So I've been on Magic Mountains and I've been on Six Flags Over Georgia's. And you know what? At least they give, like, at least it feels
underrated.
like they tried and had some animatronics and like practical things throughout the ride.
The Joker animatronic looks
I will
sick.
say I enjoyed that ride more than I do this.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even close, actually.
It's just weird that we live in such a screen-dominated world now where everyone either has an iPhone or an iPad or their TV screens where they're streaming, watching things in front of them most of the day, to be like, that's what people want to see when they go to a theme park. When they're like, want to be in real things, we're going to put another screen in front of them. I mean, that's just an overall criticism of screen rides in general, but this is like the screeniest screen ride.
It's like they saw the dark ages of Universal and how it didn't work in Universal Change, and they're like, well, maybe it'll work for us because we're Disney.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
it's like-
Let's double down.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but this is clearly a fail.
It's a fail.
It's a fail.
Let's go.
And that's that. That's
Yeah,
1
it's
for
a
10.
10% score. That is,
No one's beating that.
I can't even.
I don't know if anything is going to be.
What's really like, I can't even say that it's I think this is a fair ruling.
I agree. I honestly answered these tests. And even the old rubric, I think it gets to 2.
Yeah, at best.
Yeah.
At best.
Because even average tourists, you could say is kind of difficult.
Yeah, I had a whole that was one of those ones that I had to really prepare for, and I think that area is so like cramped that you don't even want to sit there and look around to find that.
No,
So-
because I wouldn't wait 60 for this. I know that for a
Yeah.
fact because Byron and I were at Disneyland 2 nights ago, and it was 45, and I said, I'll see you later. I'm going to Mickey and Friends Tram, because I'll ride that instead. And then also, signature moment, there is nothing in this ride.
Yeah.
That is a signature moment. It's all samey. So, there you go. It's failing both of those, in case you are wondering.
I don't know what else to really say. It's
I feel a little bad, honestly, because like I don't like shitting on rides. This is
No.
a podcast where I enjoy praising rides because I love rides.
I want it to be good.
I want it to be so
Yeah.
good.
I hope I like bump my head sometime today and then like just have a different opinion of it or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what
This ride's so bad that Byron's wishing for head trauma.
yeah. I don't know if that'll make it, be a detriment to other rides I like, but
There's not enough beers in the universe, let alone at Pim's test kitchen, for me to drink to make me enjoy this attraction.
oh no, I feel like it'd be even worse if you drank. It's not even like, it's not even intoxication proof.
I'm even actually now worrying that we've sold this as such a bad ride that it will actually make more people get on it just to see how bad it is. And I'm telling you right now, if you have that suspicion, do not get on this ride.
To put it into perspective, I would gladly choose Supercharged over this because at least Supercharged is so bad and corny that you can make fun of it while you're riding it.
I agree.
Yeah.
But the Web Slingers is trying to take itself seriously, and that's like how it looks bad.
Supercharge actually has sounds.
Yeah, it actually does.
There's memorable moments.
Yeah.
Hey ladies, why don't you stay back here?
The ride or die in the air is super funny to me too. But no, I think that this is unfortunately
This
a
is-
very fair ruling.
This entire episode is a PSA to get out of those lines, let the popularity die down, force Disney to try again.
Yeah.
Anyways, that does it for this episode of For Your Amusement. Thank you so much, Grant, for joining us. Is there anything you'd like to plug while you're here? Where can folks find you?
Yeah, YouTube and Instagram. I'm really trying to grow on YouTube right now. I want a play button so bad. I was nerding out about looking at one earlier. It's just Grant Horn. I post mainly short form content.
Amazing.
Yeah, I do fun stuff. I try to answer questions that people didn't ask.
Very good.
Yeah. It's
Also,
fun.
look out for him out there in Halloween Horror Nights season. Maybe he'll be scaring the shit out of you.
Probably.
And by the way, Grant, do you really think Universal's churro is better than Disney's?
That was a fair ruling. Yeah.
What in the world?
Yeah. I did a video where
And I will add, you took the Universal churro to Disney.
I was gonna bring a microwave. I was gonna bring a microwave
So
in
you
my
had
car.
so you had a cold stale churro from Universal.
I did take one bite at Universal to do like a baseline test, and it was pretty much exactly the same. Although I think it was different dust on it, and it was a little bit better.
Can we find that video over on your YouTube channel?
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Maybe
and Instagram.
I didn't get a good one at Universal because I feel differently about that one. But at least you tried it fresh at Universal. Like, when I was seeing the video, I'm like, there's no way you're eating a stale churro.
I
It's
did
like
the same thing with pretzels. I took a Universal pretzel, the big one, all the way over to Disney and compared it with a Mickey pretzel. I did comparing the ice cream shop at Disneyland versus California Adventure, and basically kind of gaslighted them into thinking that they were like hating on each other to see who could go
that's
crazy.
that's all what dryers. It's all the same ice cream.
Yeah, but it was I told them make the craziest thing. Add whatever ice cream, add whatever toppings.
Oh, that's right. I've seen that actually.
Yeah, and those are all super fun to do. I want to do more of them for sure.
So go check that out over on his YouTube channel. But again, thank you for spending your time with us talking about this very, very horrible ride.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming in, man.
If you're watching, make sure to I said like, right? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. Or if you're listening, please rate the podcast 5 stars and subscribe as well. And consider once again joining us on our fourth wall and supporting there by becoming a park hopper or an FYA hole by heading to fyapod.com. As mentioned up top, it'll help us keep this madness going, and you'll get up to 3 monthly bonus shows in addition to the free main show you just watched and listened to. And you'll also find our merch there as well.
And thank you to those of you who are already park hoppers. And for you audio listeners, here are 10 names we would like to thank. Chadia Cake, Gracie and Nicole, Brett with 1 T, Jess Mo Fly, Ash and Johnny, Megan Smith, Alyssa Aurelio, Rides Mom, Moana Loa 1, and Dancing Chick 881.
Follow the pod socials at FYA Pod everywhere. I'm at Ryan Bergara everywhere, but Twitter. I'm slowly navigating off of that anyway. Byron is at Byron A. Marin across all socials. And thanks for spending your time with us. Enjoy the rest of your day, and see you all on the next ride. And let us know if you like these new tests in the comments, or if we should just revert it back to the other rubric, because we will do what you guys want us to do. So, see you guys later. Bye-bye.